We turn our attention back to the Lubbock City Council and Lubbock City Council races, and joining me in studio to discuss his campaign for District 2 Lubbock City Council, Jared Hall. Welcome to the show, Jared.
Hey, thanks, Chad, for having me on.
Absolutely. Tell folks a little bit about yourself and why you decided to jump into this very crowded race in District 2.
Sure. I'm Jared B. Hall, and I am running for City Council because I want to represent all of District 2 to ensure that all residents receive the city services there that they are paying for, to get a full and fair value for their tax dollars. I'm not running, as many others are, to benefit just one small part of this district. This is a diverse district that includes much more than the areas east of I-27. My wife, Celia Gomez Hall, and I have lived in this district for over 10 years. We have friends all over the district. I am running on those issues that affect everyone, regardless of where they live in District 2. Everyone in District 2 benefits when the roads are paved and kept in good repair. Everyone in District 2 benefits when the police department is well-staffed and maintains a strong presence on the street. Everyone in District 2 benefits when the utility bills hold steady, when their tax bills don't jump higher and higher every year. That is what is important to all the citizens of District 2. That's the first job the city should be doing, and then we can talk about revitalization and redevelopment.
You know, I think a lot of people, and you touched on it there a little bit, I think a lot of folks are surprised at where District 2 is, because I think it's primarily thought of as east of I-27, that the majority of District 2 is east of I-27. Isn't that sort of the common thought that you run into out there? Yes,
it is. I mean, that's the traditional assumption. It's always been just the east side. Well, Lubbock is growing, and the population is shifting. Currently, I would put the population center of District 2 west of I-27. As I mentioned, this is a diverse district. We're looking at around 40% of a Hispanic population in this district.
Very interesting. What are some of the, as you've been going around and talking to the voters in that district, obviously turnout is going to be key. What are you talking to them about? What is the main concern that people have in District 2 regarding the Lubbock City Council?
Well, they want their basic services taken care of. They want the city to quit spending so much money. We have $1.2 billion in debt. Okay, that money has to be paid back sooner or later, and the people that are going to be paying it back are the citizens of the city of Lubbock. The other thing is they do want representation on the council. As we kind of touched on, this is traditionally been thought of as a district that only exists east of I-27. So a lot of the people that I'm running into they don't realize that, yes, you are in District 2, and yes, you do have representation on the city council.
Have people felt ignored in that district, do you think?
Yeah, because, you look at it, and we've had Floyd Price, the last time that he's the one retiring from this district, the last time that he faced any competition was in 2008. 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. And before that, it was T.J. Patterson's seat. And so now that this district, where it includes areas in central Lubbock, they kind of felt like, well, this is the east side and they should be represented. Well, I'm here to represent the entire district.
You brought up the debt load for Lubbock, and I got to tell you, I've been hearing about this for years from different candidates. So they come through here, they talk about in forums, we've got to get the debt load under control, we've got to do it, and then it seems they get elected to Lubbock City Council, and years later we're still talking about the debt load. So how do we actually cut the debt?
It's exactly that. Somebody's got to stand firm. I mean, this is not just like a temporary stop on the way to a higher office, and it really does start with you've got to stop spending so much money. I mean, I think on the February 11th City Council, they just spent another $150 million, or authorized the spending of $150 million, and here in District 2, we're looking at something like 50 miles of unpaved streets. $150 million would pave every mile of that streets.
And so how long do you think it would take to get the debt under control? And if spending continues the way it is, what is the future for the city in your mind?
If spending continues the way it is, bankruptcy. I mean, there has been cities that are that have had a lot lower debt load than the city of Lubbock, and they have been forced to file bankruptcy. And so we got to start with the cutting of the spending. The second thing is then we got to start looking at a realistic and an accountable plan to force paying off this debt. So you got to start with, okay, why are we not spending money on paying down this debt?
How would you separate yourself? I mean, this is a crowded race for District 2. A lot of people who are running. We've had one of your opponents already here in studio, and I anticipate we'll have more here on the show. How do you separate yourself from everyone else who is running?
Look, I am the only conservative voice in this race. I'm the only one that's calling for the city to quit spending so much money. I'm the only one calling for the city to quit raising our taxes. I'm the only one saying, hey, look, just because this project benefits this neighborhood or that neighborhood doesn't mean it's a good idea. When we look at new spending for the city, we should be looking at these projects that benefit the entire city.
Do you think a conservative can win in District 2?
Absolutely. This while it's perceived as perhaps a more non-conservative district, this is a district that Greg Abbott won by over almost 10 points.
Really?
Yes. With the precincts and when you add up the numbers, Greg Abbott beat Wendy Davis by 10 points.
So you think pretty easy maybe not easy, but if turnout is big, conservative can win, and this can be a conservative seat on the city council.
Well, and it should be a conservative seat. This is a conservative city, and we have, by all measures, a liberal city council. And we should be looking at a council that reflects our values. And I don't say conservative in the traditional sense. I say it in, let's be common sense about what we're doing here. Let's look at how we're spending our money. Let's run the city council like we run our own pocketbooks. We don't spend money that we don't have, and we don't buy things that we don't need.
Visiting with Jared Hall, running for Lubbock City Council in District 2. Let's take the first break. When we come back, we've got a lot of other issues to get into that will affect the Lubbock City Council going forward, and some issues that have come up in the past that may come up in the future once again. We'll get into all of those with Jared Hall when we come back on the Chad Hasty Show. All right, Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 790 KFYO, talking Lubbock City Council races, and Jared Hall in studio running for Lubbock City Council in District 2. Jared, let's talk a little bit about the Omni Building, which seems to be something that a lot of candidates are bringing up these days. The current Lubbock City Council says, hey, the Omni Building is a done deal. It's going to be the next City Hall. It's time to move on. There are candidates in just about every race out there, particularly in the mayoral race, who say it's not a done deal. This is something that needs to go to the voters, and if the voters say no to it, then we can scrap it and sell basically a hollowed-out building. What is your opinion on the Omni Building, now called Citizens Tower? What should be done? What should have been done? Where do you stand on it?
Well, I'm with a lot of them where I said, yeah, it should have been put to the voters. I mean, again, we're taking on additional debt. But I'm also a realist here, and I do fall on the side that, yeah, it is pretty much a done deal. But then you look at the economics of it, and if the numbers, and that's a big if when you're talking about the government, if the numbers hold and they do remodel it as they are saying, then we are getting prime real estate for a price that can't be beat. And we are going to, we do have an issue where we have some crumbling infrastructure in the buildings here in the city of Lubbock, especially the city buildings. So sooner or later, we were probably looking at having to update City Hall. So it was a question of, do we renovate the existing City Hall, or do we get this, we get this property relatively cheap and remodel it in a responsible and an accountable and keeping track of the expenses, making sure we're not, as governments are typical to do, triple the budget.
Well, you bring that up in Amarillo. They're building a baseball stadium, which it's a little bit different, but they're building a baseball stadium in Amarillo. They've just doubled the price of how much they were expecting to build the stadium for. Now it's going to cost double. Yeah, shocked by that, Jody. It's going to cost double what they said it was going to cost. Is that something that people should fear when it comes to this, Citizens Tower / Omni Building?
Absolutely. And that's why one of the reasons I'm running is I intend to be that voice on City Council that says, hey, we're going to hold somebody accountable. You put your bid in for $30 million, $50 million, whatever the eventual bid comes in to remodel this thing, and now you're coming back and you're saying you need another $50 million? No, we're going to hold you to that contract. You signed the bid, you signed the contract, we're holding you to it.
Let's talk about annexation, because this is something that has come up. It comes up all the time over at Lubbock City Hall, it seems like, as Lubbock continues to grow. It's been a big deal lately, with there being some folks who don't want to be annexed into the city. They moved outside the city long ago, and they don't want to be annexed in. There are also some who say we're bringing on too much, new city land that we're going to have to take care of when we're not taking care of what we have already. So where do we need to go with annexation?
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, these people built these communities, and they built their houses outside of city limits for a reason. And it wasn't because they liked living out there where there are no trees and they're living in a cotton field. It probably has a lot to do with the fact that it's a little bit cheaper to live outside of city limits than it is to live inside city limits. So then we've got the city coming along, and it's the usual rationale. Well, they're using city services, and we're already having to send the police out there. We might as well annex it. But then you got to look at the other side of it. Are they really just annexing it so they can increase the property tax base? And so you look around the city and you see there are many areas inside of city limits that aren't developed, and maybe we should be looking at developing those before we start annexing these people who may not want to be inside of city limits.
Visiting with Jared Hall, running for Lubbock City Council. If you have a question, feel free to dial in as well, 770-5790, toll-free, 1-800-687-0790. LPNL is something I'm sure you've heard from folks out in the district. People are always concerned with LPNL, the future of LPNL. Do you like the direction it's heading in now, joining ERCOT? There was a listener who submitted a question earlier this week asking, should LPNL be sold? Should Lubbock be even in the business of electricity? What do you say to that?
It's definitely something that needs to be looked at. You know, I do own a house here in Lubbock, and I do get that LP&L bill, and just like the rest of you, I'm not looking forward to my June and July bill where I suddenly see it double, or, geez, sometimes it feels like it triples, right?
Yeah.
But LP&L is going in the right direction. You know, it had a lot of problem years ago, and especially a couple years back when there was just the uproar. We all remember the I Hate LP&L group.
Yeah.
And you know they're working on that. They're fixing a lot of problems, but we need to continue that, and we need to continue to push that LP&L needs to be run not as a slush fund for the general revenue for the city, but it needs to be run as a business, and it needs to produce a profit, and it needs to be run for the benefit of the citizens.
When it comes to private property rights, been asking all the candidates about this. There was a smoking ban that was brought up last year. Where were you on that issue? Were you in favor of it or against it? If it comes up again, whether it be smoking ban, a vaping ban, whatever some of these bans are that come up that impact local businesses and business owners out there, how involved should the Lubbock City Council be, and should they approve of some of these?
Well, this is one of those areas where I somewhat differ from the majority of what the Republicans and here in Lubbock. Didn't it pass something like 66%? All right, but I come down on the side of private property should remain private. Someone has taken the time and the money to invest in a business. They should be able to run it how they see fit. Where just because they've built it inside the city limits, does that give the rest of the citizens a vote in how that business is run? So you don't want you want a non-smoking restaurant, right? Great. Okay, put your own money up. Go out and buy a restaurant, build it, and take away his customers. That's how I come down on that issue.
What about, and this is something that keeps popping up from time to time, is the sign ordinance. I hear from some in the business community who think that it's overly restrictive. Is that something that you've heard a lot about? Is that something that you think will come before the city council? And if it does, do you have any thoughts on the sign ordinance?
Not particularly. I don't see anybody who isn't able to put up a sign if they need to. My understanding is that the city of Lubbock is one of the quickest in approving a sign ordinance. And if you need a bigger sign, we've got a pretty well streamlined process for those who want to put a sign that's bigger than the regulations allow.
Visiting with Jared Hall in studio, 770-5790, toll-free, 1-800-687-0790. Go ahead and get those headphones on. We've got a listener who has a question. Brian, you're on with Jared Hall, running for Lubbock City Council in District 2.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to know what his thoughts was on selling LP&L back to the citizens of Lubbock and making it a cooperative like South Plains.
Hey, that's an interesting proposal. I've had a couple of people talk to me about that, and at the very least, it should be something that we should look at. Maybe say, hey, okay, if we did sell LP&L, what kind of revenue would that generate for the city of Lubbock, and would that be something to do to actually pay off a significant chunk of our debt?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Brian,
all right, thanks, sir.
Thank you very much. Let's talk a little bit about downtown redevelopment. Obviously, this has been a major push by the Lubbock City Council and others here in Lubbock to revitalize downtown. What going forward, what should the role be of the city of Lubbock, the city council, taxpayer money, be in revitalizing downtown Lubbock?
It needs to continue to be looked at as something that benefits the entire city. I understand the need to keep downtown and revitalize it, as they're saying. It is the kind of the jewel, the center of Lubbock, and so we should keep it in good repair. But we also need to keep an eye on: are we doing this just to benefit a few people, or are we doing it where that it benefits all the citizens of Lubbock?
Do you anticipate right now that it is only benefiting a few people?
Some of the projects that are being proposed, that are in the pipeline, they're only going to benefit a few people. Right now, there's a bike path that's being proposed in downtown, a run from Texas Tech to downtown. Well, listen, this is Texas. We have land here. We drive our cars. We don't ride our bikes. And I don't think that we should be trying to force people to do something that is just unnatural to Texans.
Well, and then don't you worry about future congestion if you're only going to have 2 lanes of traffic.
Exactly.
That doesn't make much sense to me.
How are we going to use downtown when nobody can get down there unless they rent a bike on the corner?
Yeah, well, it'll make bike rentals, I guess, flourish.
I suppose.
Maybe. In Austin, they just sit around. The bike rentals do. They don't even do that well. Jared, where can people find out more information about you?
You can find me on Facebook. Just go for look for Jared B. Hall for Lubbock City Council. And you can also hit me at my email. It's jaredforlubbock2, that's JaredForLubbock, the number 2, @gmail.com.
Thank you.